Still good morning, and it was actually a very pleasant news for Magic that Mr. Ghaisas was going to be here, and I think Saurabh, Rambhav, and probably the team made it happen for us. So thank you for that. We had a quick walkthrough of Magic. Sir interacted with some of our startups who were here too. They are all into revenue stage, so what he has to share today will be very interesting for them. To begin with, I would like to quickly welcome everyone over here, not just the guests, especially our startups, the CMIA team who is always behind us, Secretary Sir. Starting with first, the CMI President, Mr. Jaju. Ashish Garde sir, who is the founder and director of Magic. Mr. Milind Kank, who is also a director of Magic. Sunil Raithatta sir, who is the director of Magic and the managing director of Vinodra Engineers. And everybody's favorite Ritesh Mishra sir, who is also director of Magic and the CEO of a major company of Myco. Last but not the least, one of the most active mentors and supporters of all the Magic startups, Mr. Kedar Deshpande, who is closely associated with AITG. He is the director of Umasons and also a director at Magic. So again, I just left Mr. Ghaisas to be introduced because there is a lot to be said about him. I'll just give you a high-level view. Most of you most likely have read about him. So he's the chairman and the chief mentor of Genkoval. He was a pretty senior executive across multiple positions, including CEO and CFO at iFlex. He has also held executive positions at NASCOM as well as CII, Western Region. And there is a lot to speak about him, but without doing too much of ado, because we will learn more of that as we interact with him and as we come up with different questions. That's what I would like to say. And sir, thanks for your time to be here. To begin with, Magic is a CMI initiative, and we have a very strong backing from CMI on all aspects wherever we require. So I would like to request the President of CMI, Mr. Jaju, to give us some opening comments and a direction to this interaction today. Jaju sir, please.
Still good morning. Yes. Good morning, everybody. Mr. Deepak Ghaisas, today's keynote speaker and mentor. As usual, Mr. Ashish Garde, many Magic directors and past presidents, future office bearers also seen here. Some of them are present. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been said that history gets repeat. इतिहास फिर दोहराया जाता है. Exactly 10 years back, in 2012, when I was a president of Alumni Association Government Engineering College, and we had a program of entrepreneurship development. And in the opening of the program, I was a president and delivering my president's speech, and Mr. Ghaisas was a keynote speaker. So after exactly 10 years, this history got repeated. If it will repeated in the future, it will become equation. So I hope that equation may happen, may not happen, but God is great. And in his opening session, I am still remembering that he has told a story about a girl who was observing advertisement on the televisions. I think if today's topic is little bit different, but time permits, I request him to repeat that story. It was a very interesting story that a girl who was sitting in a house, her parents was going on the job, and she was observing the TV advertisement, and how that observation was turned out to be a career. It was very interesting story, Mr. Ghaisas. I was still remembering after 10 years, and thanks for that. If you repeat that story, it will be our pleasure. CMI is already doing a lot of activities. Last year we have crossed 100 plus activities in these premises, outside the premises. It has been said that the same level of thinking that has brought you at some level of your career is not enough, is not sufficient to take you where you want to go further. The coordination of knowledge and efforts in spirit of harmony between two and more people for the attainment of definite purpose is necessary. No success is achieved by a single person. The distance you've gone is less important than the direction in which you are going. So association of the people, two and more people, for ideas, energy, perspective, motivation, accountability is necessary. And CMI is doing that from last almost 5 decades. And these type of programs are very much important from the startup point of view, from the magic innovation point of view. I really, sir, I am almost, this is my last week of presidency, and maybe this is maybe the last program in which I am going to deliver this starting speech. 1 or 2 program may happen because this is the last week going up, and I am very happy that my last session as a president is happening in the presence personality like Mr. Deepak Ghaisas. At the end, there are 2 taglines which I want to deliver, and normally my taglines are in Hindi. So first tagline is, खास करके जो स्टार्टअप करने वाले हैं उनके लिए मैं कहना चाहता हूँ, अवसर उन्हीं को मिलता है, अवसर उन्हीं को मिलता है जिन्हें लोग पहचानते हैं, पसंद करते हैं और जिन पे भरोसा करते हैं। और आदमी ने अपने ऊपर उतनी ही जिम्मेदारी लेनी चाहिए जितनी वो प्रसन्नता से निभा सके, और जिस दिन अपने चेहरे पे हंसी ना हो तो अपनी दुकान नहीं खोलनी चाहिए। At the end, I will close my talk by saying, मंजिल तो मिल जाती है भटकते ही सही, मंजिल तो मिल जाती है भटकते ही सही, गुमराह तो वह है जो घर से निकले ही नहीं। तो I think I welcome Mr. Ghaisas again, and if time permits, I request him to repeat the story of girl who was observing TV advertisement. And I also, on behalf of CMIA, I welcome Mr. Deepak Ghaisas for providing our movement.
We are going to have a detailed presentation of magic with Mr. Ghaisas later. But just to set up the context, and before we invite Mr. Ghaisas, I invite Mr. Ashish Garde to give a quick background to Mr. Ghaisas as to how magic was formed, what its goals are, and then we will have the most awaited session of today, getting Mr. Ghaisas on the stage. So, Ashish sir.
Good morning, and on behalf of CMI and Magic, I welcome you all for this very interesting session wherein we have Mr. Deepak Ghaisas with us. Already CMI President Jaju sir has delivered his welcome address, and Ghaisas sir is expected to interact with us. I won't stand too long in between the two speakers. Quickly, I will mention about CMI Magic. Actually, CMI used to conduct many activities related to industry institute interaction and promotion of innovation. But we wanted to have some permanent platform wherein we could structure these initiatives and have some follow-up actions connected with such initiatives. And that's how in 2013 we had a very big innovation summit hosted under the leadership of Milind sir, and at that point of time we resolved that we will be having such permanent platform through which we can cater to such needs and activities. In 2015, formally CMI decided to set up a Section 8 company dedicated for incubation and startup related activity. This company got registered in 2018. Simultaneously, we got recognition from Maharashtra State Innovation Society as well as Ministry of MSME. The best part of MAGIC is it's a sector agnostic incubator wherein members of CMI who are eminent entrepreneurs having more than 25 or 30 plus years of experience, they act as mentors, and this is completely a giving back to the society initiative. MAGIC has like no conditions or no barriers. Anybody who has a good idea can walk in MAGIC and interact with MAGIC mentors. The idea can be from any domain, any stage, and the candidates need not have any specific academic background nor the age. So this is the only incubator in the country where no conditions are attached and all support services right from the stage of idea to their commercialization or the startups reach revenue stage. Not only at the revenue stage, but we also provide acceleration support to the startups as well as MSMEs. We will have some conversation after your session, and we will share the numbers, what we have achieved in last 5 years, the impact that MAGIC could have managed to generate, and I am sure with your today's guidance, MAGIC can move ahead further. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish sir. Mr. Ghaisas, either from there or from here, we would love to know more about today's topic, which is centered around startups and angel investments. Angel investments, I think, is one of the key areas that now we have started focusing on. Once that we have a foundation in place, we have a reputation in place. Now we are looking at how do we move to the next level, and we want to be proactive. So a combination of your experiences from iFlex, from any other small companies you may have dealt with, from Vancouver that you have interacted with or maybe have even transacted with, a combination of those experiences that can help our startups and help MAGIC overall. That would be wonderful to hear from you. Following your talk, we will also have an open interaction with all the audience. So over to you, please.
Last minute for good morning. So thank you again, thank you for inviting me. And I'm sure Mr. Jaju, I think 10 years down the line we'll meet again.
Yes.
You will be president of CII probably. And so startup is again, I mean, two parts as you said. I'll speak for 30 minutes and then probably 15 minutes for interaction. When we did iFlex, the word startup was not there. No venture capital was there. It was 1993. And even we didn't know that what we're doing is startup. So we just did it, and we wanted to do something different. And as we always say that you can make money only three ways. One is something doing better than others, or something doing different than others, or something doing new. And probably startup ideas that come up, what we need is either you're going to do some better process or better product or better service than others, and make a dent in the market, or you do something different. Like what we did in iFlex was, every software company in India at that time was a service company, and we got into product company. So that was the difference that we did, and that's how we got the kind of valuations that we made. Most of the IT companies were concentrating more on, 82% at that time, revenues were coming from United States, and between US and UK they were 92%. What we did was exactly opposite. We went to emerging markets first, because obviously we didn't have money to go into US market, and setting a product from India was not something which was heard of. And what we were selling was core banking solution, which is mission critical. That means it doesn't do the end of day today, bank doesn't open tomorrow. So some banks need to believe on this. So we went to emerging markets. At the end of the day, we were like 138 countries, and more than 700 financial institutions were using our software, or are using software today. And we were largest selling software in the world for consecutive 5 years. So that's what creates the value. And every time I tell people that find out what is unique that you're doing, what is different that you're doing, or you have to do something new, which is like iPod, for example. iPod was, when it came, it was new. People didn't know what it was. So necessity is sometimes mother of invention. But iPod proved that you can create the necessity. That was beauty of Apple. Nobody wanted iPod, but still we got it. And the way in which he launched it, went to the market, I think he managed to go greatly. Rest of the history. But new things are coming up daily almost. Technology is changing very fast. In every field. Today IT is not something which is IT as a segment, but IT is there everywhere. And what we forget about it is not only technology, it is information, which is more important. But today any business you do, what makes you differentiate yourself is the kind of information that you got in hand. And it is not important only that you got information, but how you make use of that information is also very important. How you process that information, how you make your decisions based on that, how quickly you make those decisions on that. And that is what information technology is all about. Today you get the information at the same time as a person in New York will get it, or a person in Tokyo will get it. So if you are kept on the same playing field, and I think Indians are known for their brains, how quickly you can analyze it, and how quickly you can make use of it. Simple example I'll give you of one of my companies, mine in the sense, when I say mine, we're investors in it, called Cogensis. I don't know how many of you have heard of it, but Cogensis is like the Indian Bloomberg. Okay, so we give the terminals to banks and financial institutions. But our entire USP is the information. Because in stock market, in metal markets or in commodity markets, when you get the information and based on that how quickly you take action, makes you money. And people nowadays even look at nanosecond of speed. When the order is placed on NASDAQ from Chicago, it goes in some milliseconds. And between those milliseconds, people pick that signal, buy that stock, and sell it again. Make a couple of cents on that. But you can imagine if millions of shares are sold every minute, you can make millions of cents every minute and therefore millions of dollars in a day. It is not illegal so far. So you can actually tap it and do it. Point I'm making again is that information, how quickly you can make use of it, how quickly you can decide, and if people are taking decisions in nanoseconds, I think we are far late if we don't move on that in the same hour. So along with information technology, this is biotechnology, nanotechnology. And one of my ventures today is we work on dental pulp stem cells, which are called mesenchymal stem cells. And when you say mesenchymal stem cells, they can regenerate any of your tissue in the body. And that technology will ultimately, see, all of us are going to grow older. And luckily or unluckily, we are going to live longer. The question today to the world community is, between 70 and 90, how do I live? How gracefully I live? Because all of us see in our houses with the parents that you start getting diabetes, you start getting hypertension. Current medical science has no solution to it. They convert every disease into chronic, keep on popping that pills all the time. Pharmaceuticals are happy, doctors are happy, you are happy, because you get symptomatic relief, but it's not cure. And if you're unlucky, then your knees start getting problem, knee replacement comes, 30% is successful, 70% is not successful, but the amount of money that you spend on that, you always say that no money is good, but you can't run. And then if you're really unlucky, then you start developing dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, for which there is no medicine. Now, that is not the life that you want to live it in 70, 90 or 100. And that is where the biotechnology got in. And people thought that the stem cells can make a difference. They can regenerate. So any degenerative disease, there is a regenerative answer, and that is coming from biotechnology. So that's why I thought I should be getting into it. So we have got a company called STEM. We have a lab in Chennai. We are in 17 cities. Of course, last 2 years we have just shelved it because there are no dentists working. And nobody was willing to open their mouth in front of the dentist. I'm sure you'll agree with me.
Yes.
And but the amount of storage now you have got of stem cells is a big asset for you. And fortunately, my younger son is now in UK. He did his MS in regenerative medicine, and now he is doing his PhD using the stem cells to re-heal the diabetic wounds. So the regeneration of those stem cells. So what I'm making is the applications are coming, and those are very important. So technology is moving very fast, and therefore whatever business that we get into, we should be using that technology. Of course, there's the other side to it also, because not necessary that everyone will have a knowledge of technology and use it. But take a simple example like candles. I mean, when electricity came, candles should have lost their importance and gone out of market. But today I can assure you the market of candles is much more than what it was 100 years back when electricity was not there. Why? Because the application of candles was changed. Today you and me buy candles not for the light, but as a decoration piece. So the same product, supposed to have gone out of the market, still occupying market, because the application was changed. Now you get colored candles, perfume candles, and all of us buy them. Whether you are Christian, you are Hindu, Muslim, you will buy them because of decoration. So it is not only technology, but ultimately how you make that application. And that is a question probably I was asking a couple of people whom I met, that how that application will change. I don't want to be one more manufacturer in the market. I want to be something doing either better, different, or new. That's the point. One of my activities also, we run a PE fund called Xfinity. We run out of Bangalore. So we started 6 years ago. Today we have 3 funds totaling around 1,000 crores. And we have got some 34 investments now. But our fund is specifically for deep tech startups. So we have got SaaS models, we have got enterprise models. But they are necessarily the deep tech companies. And what we look for, I mean, a couple of probably minutes I will take because that is going to be useful for both, for the investors as well as the startup people. Because as you rightly said, the ideas will keep on. Rather, as a human being, ideas come every second to us. Right? We're all active human beings. And right from educated, uneducated, rural, urban, old, young, all of us keep on getting ideas all the time. Now, not all that ideas are workable. And therefore, people that come to us, and when I say that in Xfinity we did 34 investments, but I can assure you, we went through 800,000 ideas. But one of the things that we decided that we will not fund anybody who is on the PowerPoint. And you understand what I'm saying? But I think PowerPoint is one of the worst things that can happen to a startup guy. Okay. One of the criteria, at least I apply that, is a promoter who can explain to me his or her idea in one line, which makes sense, has understood what he or she wants to do. And I can give you an example. My mentor, the guy called Bill Comfort, who is now 85 and was chairman of the Citigroup Venture Capital from my board. So he was telling me this. He was in the funding committee of Cisco when Cisco started. And they came with the Cisco guys came with the promoters came with the thick PowerPoint presentation, impressive looking, and gave it to everybody in the room and was about to start to present. And this guy just told him, just stop. I mean, we are quite impressed with your folder. But tell me in one line what you want to do. And his quick answer was, I want to create network of networks. And he said, funding is done. We don't have to go to building. Because the moment you start giving 15 minutes answer what you want to do, that means you yourself haven't understood. And if you haven't understood it, how will I understand? So what you want to do, that clarity of thought in mind has to be very, very much there. And I can assure you, my experience, this has nothing to do with your qualification. The most uneducated guy can tell me if his or her thoughts are good, what they want to do, and how convincing it can be. It can come from the youngest person, it can come from the oldest person. So age is no bar, and I'm glad that you are not kept any age as a bar for qualifying it. And not the education is a bar. That my feeling is that more educated you are, lesser chance that you will become entrepreneur. And I'll tell you why. Because your assessment of risk gets wider and wider, because you can look at various risks that you have learned in life. And something that we call in psychology is called orthodoxies. That my orthodoxies get built and harder, and I know this can't be done this way. Why? Because I have done my engineering, my professor has told me this, I have read it in the books. So you start losing that something called blue sky thinking. And I was telling that in the board yesterday. The blue sky thinking, when you say that, for example, the stem cell business I am talking about, my blue sky thinking is that one day I will have the organ factory. That your stem cells I will take from the dental pulp, and if your kidney gets damaged, I can recreate your kidney by manipulating those stem cells in the lab and give it to your doctor who will fix it. So you are fine. I can create your liver, I can create any organ of yours except brain. Because brain cells are little different. Hopefully one day we can create the brain also, and you can work with two brains. That's the blue sky thinking. And every blue sky thinking, people laugh at it first. If somebody would have told you 150 years ago that I will press the button here and light will glow there, people would have laughed. I asked this question many people that do you carry your TVs with you when you travel? And people laugh. Why should you carry TV? Do you carry your laptops with you? And everyone says yes. Why? With cloud computing, every hotel should have a monitor and keyboard and a Wi-Fi which is available there. Why should I carry my laptop at all? And sooner or later, why sooner or later now? I mean, first computer I had seen was of this room size in IIT Mumbai, when my father was the ADP manager of Bombay Municipality. The entire computer storage at that time of this room size with cupboards inside was some 250 MB. And we were aghast. Oh my God. I mean, I was like in 10th standard, 9th standard. 250 MB, what a number. Now my son will laugh at it. This small machine, hand machine, has got somewhat 4 GB, 10 GB, 100 GB. I believe now a terabyte hard disk come on the kilo, not on terabytes. By weight they say. So if that is the way things are moving, what we as an entrepreneur should look at is what is going to get sold tomorrow, not today. It might look very odd, but that is the criteria that we apply, that how clear you are in a thing. And sometimes mad ideas work. Not sometimes, many times. Because they are different. They are new. They are not only just better, they are new and different. So that's how the entrepreneurship works. Many times ideas you get, I think one thing you must check, that am I the only person in this world who is smarter than others? Or somebody else have thought about this? Simple thing you have to do is Google. And when computers were not there, we would probably go through the libraries and journals to see where anybody has written about it, the paper written about it. Today, don't have to worry about it. Put any word and you get millions of pages. Again, I'm saying information is available. How you make use of that? When a person came from Konkan to me for funding, and he said, I have created a model whereby the sea waves can create electricity. And he thought it was a great innovation. And then he showed me a YouTube clip that in Napoli or somewhere he was putting that box there and waves came and the light flew. I said, do you think you're the only person who thought about this? He actually thought he was the only person. And then we Googled it, and we got thousands of sites and thousands of equipment which are, million times better than what this box was. And all of them failed because it was not practical, feasible. But he had not seen that. So please, when you get the idea, Google it and see if anybody has tried. And not because you get discouraged, but you see what mistakes they made or where they failed and whether you can overcome those mistakes. Rather than reinventing wheel and again getting failed. So whenever people come for us for funding, that is one thing we look at. Third thing that we look at is whether it is sustainable. A platform that we are building on is sustainable. It is not something where, like a guy was trying to ride, a pillion rider was trying to go with his brother. And he said, be careful, I am riding scooter first time as a pillion rider. He said, don't worry, even I am riding it first time. So if your platform is new, your application is new, both of them new, the accidents are quite possible. So don't venture into that kind of stuff. The platform has to be sustainable. And fourth thing that we look at is the team. Funding comes fifth. Funding is a list of the problems. Today I can assure you the money is chasing the ideas. Not ideas are chasing money. As a fund, when I got 1,000 crores, I want good ideas to be deployed for. I want all of them to be successful. So that is how I can make 4x, 5x, 2x at least money within 4 years, 5 years. So we are chasing for the new good ideas. But you have to convince people that how to do it. And first 4 points that I covered. Your team has to be good. If you're a solo guy, we will not know. Why? Because something happens to you, what happens to the entire project? Who is your second line? You can't be expert in everything. So what is your team? Is the entire team is in sync? Have they the same passion? Have the same enthusiasm? Do they have the same conviction that this will succeed? If all those things are together, then we can manage it. And then the funding part comes. And then your sort of sustainability, your attitude, because entrepreneurship is an attitude. People who, even in my times when I am a chartered accountant by profession, by the way. So I'm a chartered accountant, cost accountant, company secretary, London Business School, and so on. But I got into IT, I got into biotechnology now. I'm in the food industry before. I'm still on the board of SAS in Singapore. I'm supposed to be good at remote catering, so I can tell you which wine will go with which color of meat and so on. And how to plan a pantry. I started a restaurant in Muscat, which is still running. So, what you do ultimately, you have to have that team and passion and conviction. How small your product is. And I don't know that I've said that before, but a young guy was with me in business class, Bombay to London. And then the day I asked him, so what do you do? So he said, well, I'm in textile. So I said, what textile? Because I know a little more about the yarn industry and so on. So he said, no, I manufacture these labels on the shirt or any apparels, the labels. I said, how much it costs? He said 50 paisa to 5 rupees. Such a small product, the guy is traveling to Europe in business class for a business. I said, how do you do it? So he looked at me and said, what shirt do you wear? I said, maybe Arrow. You know how much it costs? I said, maybe 350 rupees. How much you paid for it? I said, maybe 1,500 rupees. Knowing that it is cost 350, you paid 1,500 because my label was there. Now, what I thought was that conviction and pride that howsoever small product it is great. Now, on angel funding, since I got 6 minutes more, on angel funding, I think we must understand the difference between angel funding, private equity, venture capital, bank funding, and so on. So each one of them come at a different stage. So first comes is your own contribution. That's very important. Then comes the angel funding. Now angel funding range is generally between less than 1 crore. And then private equity comes, who generally, we are private equity fund. So our ticket size is like $1 million to $2 million per venture. So that's around 7 to 14, 15 crores. Venture capitalists go beyond that. They will go sort of 50 crores to whatever. So don't go to a venture capitalist when you don't require that kind of money. Nobody will entertain. And you unnecessarily get frustrated because you are approaching the wrong person. Now when you get angel capitalists also, which is less than 1 crore or 2 crores, please ensure that the angel capitalist is the right person, who will not interfere with you so much, whose reputation in the market is good, and looking at him or her, the P guy will get encouraged. If he has invested, that means he must have gone through the due diligence and the idea must be good. So one of the things that you must ensure, don't take money from the first guy you meet and who is willing to give it. His domain knowledge, his experience, his reputation in the market are very important in long run. Because when we get into P mode, we see who all are funded before. And that carries a lot of weight. Okay. And probably the organizations like this, one of the criteria for angel capitalists is how much of due diligence you carry out before doing it. It is a nepotism कि मेरा भाई है उसका करने उत्तरों funding. No, we don't like that. If you want to know, if you want to try, take your father's money. And for young boys and girls, I always say that your father is not your choice, but your father-in-law is definitely your choice. He is the best angel capitalist. Waiting. Right? He's convinced. But that's the reality of life. But as a PE, will I fund that guy? No. Because it has come more out of love, affection, or sometimes coercion. So choose the right angel capitalist. And forum like this should create that due diligence environment that whenever Magic has funded, that means PEs will get encouraged to fund more. That should be the reputation of yours. But then that angel fund has more meaning. And I've discussed a couple of options with Kedar coming. Then come to PE. And then you go to VC when you're expanding it further. And every time give exit to the earlier fund owner. Because angel capitalist stays with you for 3 years, the PE comes in, ensure that the angel capitalist gets his 2x, 3x, whatever, and goes on. Don't carry a private investor for long. I mean, this is most practical tip I'm giving. Don't tell anybody that I said that. Unfortunately, you're recording. Don't collect at the P fund level, don't collect it from individuals. Try to get it from the funds. Why? Because individuals will bother you too much. Because a guy who's investing, if he doesn't have the mentality of a private equity holder. So as a private equity, why create a portfolio of 30? Because out of 30, probably 8 will fail. I know that. I will not bother. The individual guy has just funded you and you fail, he will make your life miserable. He will never allow you to rise up again. So choose the right PE also. And venture capitalists, we say there are some vulture capitalists also. Okay, so ensure that your venture capitalist is not a vulture capitalist. Right? And since he was talking about the story, I'll tell you the different story.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is another thing that as an entrepreneur, I always believe strongly. And the story goes like this: there were no rains, and Aurangabad has experience of that. So there are no rains for entire monsoon. So ultimately, the priest in the village says that tomorrow morning we'll gather in the temple and we'll pray to the God for rains. But the priest can do maximum that much. So all of them say yes, we must pray. So next morning, the entire village gathers together. And then there is a young girl of 6 years, 7 years old who comes with an umbrella. And they ask her, why are you carrying an umbrella? She said, no, we are going to pray. And it's going to rain. And then I should have an umbrella. That is called faith. I think every morning all of you should get out for your house with that umbrella. That is going to rain. That faith in your business, in your activity, in your venture is most important. And as a venture capitalist, as an angel capitalist, what we keep on searching in you is that faith or conviction. Because if you don't, then you will never be successful. Faith doesn't guarantee you success, but faith helps you to succeed. You can't fail. I'm done. My time is over. So now we get to, is it okay? So sorry, I'll tell the story. Since you requested me, I think I ought to say that. Okay, the story goes like this. I mean, this is a whole story and a real story. How entrepreneurship is built and how you don't require to be an engineer for entrepreneurship. This is a young lady, of course now she's grown old. but she was like 22-year-old girl in Gurgaon, Mumbai. While studying here, she always used to watch TV. And I said, in my time we used to listen to the radio, and our parents used to tell, no, don't listen to the radio while studying. But she used to watch TV. And particular ads she used to love. Like all of us like some ads, right? And that day, thrice it so happened that that ad came and went off in half. And she was very upset with that. 3 times it happened. She could not see the ad fully in the whole day. And then it so happened that the companies whose ad was that, she knew a girl there who was working as a secretary to the boss. She called her and said, you know, today I tried to watch your ad, which I loved. And all the 3 times when they showed, they dropped it up. And she thought, she's happy now because she has told someone. I thought. It so happened that a girl happened to tell her boss. And after 3 days, she gets a call from this brand and said, my boss wants to see you. So she goes there. Boss says, are you sure that 3 times they didn't show that? Yes. How many times you watch? She said, no, every day I watch while studying. Why don't you do one thing? You watch it every day and tell me whether the ad was fully shown or not. Because I am going to claim refund from the ad agency. Because I pay per second, and if my ad is not shown fully, I am going to get it. And actually they got it. After that, many companies approached her. And then at that time, it's 10 years back, she had 32 girls watching TV every day and doing the audit of those ads and informing those companies whether ads were given or not. Point is, which idea will get you to the business and create value out of it? You can't say, is that right?
Yes.
So thank you for reminding me. I mean, I even I've forgotten about it. But lastly, I think you carry that umbrella. That's my message today. Carry that umbrella with you every morning, and every one of us. I mean, not only startup, but every business, right? Because that day is going to rain, and if it rains, we'll return on that. Thank you. Any more questions?
You want to do the questions?
We can have questions from the audience.
Yeah.
So, sir, I have a question. You mentioned that the funding part of the startup comes at the last stage, and before that, the team has to be in place. So, for a startup company with having limited resources, will it not be challenging to have eminent people leading different functions of the company and making a good team? So how to create this team when the resources are very limited?
Good question. See, point here is your team. That's why I said the team has to have the same passion, same attitude of entrepreneurship. Because if people join you as a startup for salary, they are not good people for you. I'm not saying they're bad people, but they're good, they might be good, but not good for your team. Because your salary structure affects your P&L and your cash flow. Okay? So your compensation structure has to be more in terms of stock options. The stock options ultimately are paid by the market, not by you. Your job is to create value, right? And when you give options to your people, when they make 100 rupees, you make 1,000 rupees in the market. Sometimes 10,000 rupees. But that gives them the sense of ownership. That gives them the that fire in the belly, as we call it, because it becomes their company. But if you expect them, or they expect to get, probably that guy was working in a multinational company getting 70 lakh rupees, a crore rupees salary, and they expect the same salary to be given by you can't hire that guy. Simple. Right? So your resource is not a constraint. Constraint is your ideas. How good you imagine things. But if the guy needs that, I mean, one of the criteria that we also apply that when we fund, we ensure that promoters don't get salary. Because I'm not going to fund you to get your salary. Because after a couple of years, you tell me sorry and go. You got your money. Even when I started my company, I'm Genco Val. Genco Val, the word came from generating companion value. So idea is to get the technologies, scientific people to the market because they don't have that acumen, which is commercial acumen. We understand the market, so we get it together, create value as a companion. That is Genco Val, generating companion value. So when I created that 4 companies, each one of them got CEO. One from McKinsey, one from very good people. And they are running it. But I asked them to get some money with them. I gave them the option, 20% is owned by them. But I also asked them to get money to put in equity, not because I wanted it, but because if he loses, his wife will shout at him. And that fear is worse. I'm sure you like it. Right? Because your skin has to be on the table. And that is what we see. But if you say that you give me crore rupees and my salary is 40 lakh rupees, 2 साल में तो 2.5 साल में खत्म हो जाएगा. बाद में आप बोलोगे सॉरी तो मेरा पैसा गया, आपका घर तो चल रहा है. ये नहीं चलेगा.
So the key takeaway from this question is that to have passionate people around you,
Same passion.
same passion.
But that guy might be passionate in music. We don't require it.
Got it.
Same passion, same conviction,
Okay.
and you should be in sync,
Okay.
right? Because he might be thinking differently. Some people might think I must get inventory first and then go for marketing. Some may think I must do marketing first and then build the inventory. So there will be passion same way, but the thought process is not in sync. That team will never work. Yeah. So your objective, the process to achieve that goal has to be in same lines.
Thank you.
What you said, Mr. Ghaisas, and what Saurabh asked, I'll give you an example.
Sure.
We as mentors at Magic, we have a big concern, like you said, convincing the startup guys or girls about you are an innovator, you need to add team, who can do marketing.
Absolutely.
For example, we were talking about the spray pump I showed you upstairs. So this guy is an innovator.
Yeah.
But now he wants to expand his team. But what you said, paying out or what Saurabh asked, pay out becomes a problem.
Yeah.
I'll give you a recent example where a person agreed in lines of what you gave the example. He did not have money to shell out the salary. And the girl was working for Reliance. And this guy, based out in a small town, agreed to pay out 7% of the equity.
Hmm.
And her salary was, I think, 1 crore per annum. And she is now working with 75,000 rupees a month. Taking into consideration that you will give me 7% and I will work for you and we will work together with the same passion.
Absolutely.
So I believe cracking that deal is, with the same passion is very
Correct. And ideally, you should not be convincing that person. That person should be already convinced about it. Okay? Because convincing someone not to take crore and take 75,000 with 7% is not something that people will generally accept it. And depending on your family size, your age group, your requirements in the house. I mean, one guy was telling me that he was convinced about it, but his wife was pregnant, and he was shifting from Singapore to Mumbai. He said, Deepak, I can't handle so many variables at a time. I thought this was the right thinking. Because my baby, my wife, my new house, and no salary. So many variables I can handle. But after 1.5 years, he came back to me and said, now I'm ready to join. Because he probably had done with shifting, his baby was there, his wife was good, then he's mentally prepared. So it is very important. If I had hired him at 1.5 years back, probably in 6 months he would have left me. So I gave him the time. So I knew that he's convinced about the idea, but I fully appreciated that his handling of variables was tough for him, so many variables at a time. So when you get the guy, at that time his or her situation, his family, you should know all of that as a promoter. Yeah. And give time to people. Sometimes they don't decide immediately. Everyone takes their own time. Sometimes I get scared when the person immediately says yes, but then he has not thought about it. Many times I ask them, go and ask your family, go and talk with your family. I mean, I can tell you that the thing that we run in Vilepar, my school association, politics, so we run an incubation model. We hold a contest called Wings to Vision. For the last 6 years we've been holding it. And right from school to anybody can come and present their ideas. We ultimately select 3 ideas and fund them. Angel fund. And we provide the space also. And 2 of them are successful now. And there are, I think, 7 who are running the problem that we get of dropouts from incubation. Why? Because parents sometimes resist. Suddenly the parents will come back and say, no, no, ye kya chal raha hai, kuch kama nahi raha hai, khacha. How long we should carry out like this? So I think nowadays we have started even talking to the parents first. And these are like college pass out kids, so probably parents think that they can still control them. That is not the reality. But kids can't get into that situation where parents are sort of almost harassing them every day, every evening, and still they have to carry out. They can't bear that pressure. So we now started even in interviewing the parents whether they are mentally prepared for their kids' entrepreneurship. We find a lot of parents who are very much prepared. I found few parents who are actually pushing the guy into the entrepreneurship. ये नहीं मान रहा है जरा मना लो उसको, फिर धंधा करे कुछ. So we find all kind of people, but timing is very important.
One point to make and question to ask. I am a big believer of startups, and that's why we are supporting Magic.
Yeah.
But in this whole world of startups, do you think the MSME sector is getting secluded, or not much attention is being paid? And secondly, a comment, जितना VCs ने startup में पैसा लगाया हिंदुस्तान में, उतना अगर MSME में लगाते तो we would have been at par with China in terms of manufacturing. I don't know whether it makes sense or not, just a thought.
No.
And your views on that? Yeah.
Sure. I think this is a great question. I think your point is right. Okay, that there is a huge buzzword about startups. But one of the reasons is because investors love startups because their multiplier is much higher. आप MSME में कितना साल चला रहे हो, आपका वैल्यूएशन क्या है? वैल्यूएशन आप कराना भी नहीं चाहते हो. Right? You are happy with your rolling money, and probably this is the 3rd generation that is running the same factory. So a lot of cash flows are good, so you are not worried about it. You don't want to lose the control. Look at these kids now startup. They are ready to lose the control tomorrow if they are getting the valuation. I mean, $100 million sold. They are ready to take the next startup. आप तो 3 जनरेशन से वही MSME चला रहे हो. आप तो छोड़ना नहीं चाहते हो because you think that is your identity. Right? Then which investor will put in for what? So we won't mind putting money in MSME, provided we get the valuation, and provided you are ready to unleash that value in the market. You are not willing. Startups are willing, and obviously the time required for the high-tech stuff is much shorter. I mean, 3 to 7 years is the maximum. Right? And if you can't encash in 7 years, then actually the investment is written off. But either you have to change or don't expect. Investors will not change. They are there in the market to make money. Very simple. Okay? Yes, please.
So what should be the strategy of startups when they are launching their products or services where there are another big fishes in the market?
Oh, I think that is the major question worldwide. Okay, and today in US, especially in Bay Area, the situation is that if you are creating a product which goes with, say, Microsoft or with Apple or with Android, then those fundings are not being lent. Okay, and why? Because your novelty goes away the moment you launch it. Right? Everyone knows what you launched. It might be an innovation. It might be patented. But there are 100 ways you can make it, and especially when the patent is on the process. Say you can achieve the A to E, you can go with the process of B, C, D, E. I can also achieve by A, B1, C, E. Right? Like Toyota, when they got a patent on the injection of petrol in the engine, so they have got some patented technology. But they found out all 7 ways that it can be achieved and patented all 7. So now every engine that is manufactured, I believe they have to pay a royalty to Toyota. Now every small startup can't do that. So what happens, these bigger fish copies it. You have no muscle to fight a war against them. So ultimately you vanish, because they just package it as a free gift along with that, then your value is gone. That happens. Okay? So when you are, I would say competing, but even if you are complementing, okay, you have to use it very tactfully. Like what we say is always is a Coca-Cola style. No one, even today, after so many years or decades, no one still know how the Coke formula is. They guarded it so well. Now you should have something guarded so well. For example, if you are giving the product to OEM for manufacturing, keep one chip with you which is your secret. So number of chips that person takes, you can control even the number of engines that is manufactured, and therefore I can get my royalty. Or keep something which is yours. But moment, I mean, when you go on open source and open code and everything, I tell many times even startup people that when you make presentations even, you have to be very careful. Okay. So I use some different words, but I will not use it. It's called bikini approach. Vital is hidden knowledge. So do that. Yes.
Sir, for my equipment, I have filed patent at Indian office also, as well as US office also. It's in the process. Every question we have answered, we are just waiting for the result. Suppose I get it, then what should be my further action and how I can achieve it as a start?
Oh, I think your actually the responsibility goes up. You have to appoint a lawyer who will keep on searching worldwide anybody who is infringing your rights. And if they are infringing, you should be able to go and send a notice to them.
Suppose I want to sell it.
Oh, you can always sell it.
So what's the process for that? Because at this level we don't do anything about it.
Oh, how to sell a patent? You have to license it. Never sell a patent. You license it always. Okay, it can be a perpetual license, it can be a geographical license, it can be a period-based license, it can be an annuity-based license, it can be an upfront license. See, IPR is never sold, it is always licensed. Remember that. And then you have to also worry about the derivatives of that. You know, using same equipment, suppose somebody makes another equipment, which is a little variant of that. It happens in medicine, day in and day out. You know, in India we call it cocktails. So, paracetamol के साथ वो कुछ पोटे ऐड किया, तो अलग product हो गया. Right? So people can try to overcome, and this can happen only when you are grandly successful. Moment you are making millions of dollars, people will look at you. If you are barely making anything, people will ignore it. Okay, but how that vital that tool is, or the instrument is, or the product is, people will try to copy. I mean, we sold iFlex to Oracle. So once I was talking to Larry Ellis, who was the owner of Oracle. Larry, what we do when people take the pirated version of Oracle? He said, I love them. Why do you love them? He said, no, that means my product is good. People want to copy it. But you can make the statement only when you have $27 billion in a bank.
I have a obvious question.
There is no question. just a small practice we followed in magic. We just not give us advice on whether it's right or wrong, but we did in one or two instances. Startup was there, mechanical engineer, a good idea, and coming from a relatively not so well-to-do family. His family requirements of like getting some bread and butter per month was there, must, it was must. One of our directors decided that we will take him on company role for 2 years, limited period, and give him bread and butter, 5,600 rupees per month, but he should conceive his idea. He did it, and today I think he is doing fairly well. How do you look into this aspect of support?
I think it was a more generous.
Not from generosity point of view.
No, but I think it's generous.
No, I'm looking more from a model for it. If you don't way to model it, can we?
I love it. I think rarely it happens, but I think you've done great.
Ritesh sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Deepak, it's an offbeat question.
Sure.
You have given mantras to all the startups, how to do funding and all those things. But I would like to know the real mantra of you. How do you manage getting into hotels, finance, and all those things? So could you just guide us in that?
I think since I'm in genetics now, I think it must be built in genetics. That I can't control. But I think inquisitiveness is very good. I enjoy it. That's the more important. I'm like still thirsty for knowledge. And every time I hear the new term, I ask what it is. My wife is cytogenesis, so she runs her own lab. So I ask her many fundamental questions. But I think the most dumbest question is one which is not asked. So keep on asking. But ask with the intention to gain knowledge, not to test somebody. That is very important. You know, Ashtavakra Gita, he has says, I don't know if you heard of Ashtavakra Gita. But Ashtavakra Gita, he has said that whenever the question is asked to you, wait for a second, look at the person's face, and find out why he or she is asking the question. Because the answer will always depend on that. Every question doesn't have the same answer. Your intention of asking is very important. Same thing happens with entrepreneurship. When you're negotiating, I mean, I conduct lectures on negotiation skills, for example. And it is a skill. There is no theory to it. There is no. You have to, what do you say? You don't have to prove in the negotiation that you are smarter than the other guy. You don't have to win the argument. You have to win the deal. You know, those kind of small things.
And do you think Marwadis have got inborn talent in that? Negotiation.
See, I'm not a Marwadi. So I can't say Marwadis are inborn, but yes. I mean, entrepreneurship wise, I think there is a genetic evidence, and especially the ecosystem. I mean, I have seen many Marwadi families, if the guy fails, the family has come together, given their ornaments together. In Maharashtrians, it is very difficult for even the boy to get married when he is in business. उसको पगार नहीं मिलता है तो क्या खाएगी मेरी बेटी? ऐसा होता था अभी थोड़ा चेंज हो गया. But Marwadi, I believe, I don't know if it's true, but more times you have declared a bankruptcy, that guy is more valuable in the. Marathi में आप दीवारा निकल तो गया. That is where the ecosystem. It's not nothing with genetics, but it is more of an ecosystem.
It is all about value addition.
So with permission of all, I'll just add something what British is asking about. I heard one lecture by Mr. Abhay Firodia. He talked on Jainism. And I learned that Jainism is 5,000 years old. And Mahavira used to do business 5,000 years back. So we as a generation, maybe whatever community we are just 200 years old. And they are 5,500 years. So that is there in their genes.
genetic build है future. But I hope that even Maharashtra Institute will changing fast. But that will be tough for the Marwadian. I'm joking.
No, coming to that, like Mr. Kang told about the Jainis, I came across a group of Jain engineers last 1 month. Now they have formed a group across the globe, the Jain Engineers Association.
Yes.
You know what decision they have taken? That no Jain engineer will do the job henceforth.
Yes.
And they are supporting for their ideas. That group is already very active in Aurangabad, and I am interacting with 2-3 times. They have taken the decision across the globe that no Jain engineer will do the job. So this is the spirit.
Excellent.
They are out of that Indian crab syndrome.
Indian what?
Indian crab pulling each other.
Oh, well, crap. I think that accusation is done by everyone in the world.
Great. I think we will never end this conversation if we continue. I'll invite our director, Mr. Kedar Deshpande, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Namaskar. Thank you, Mr. Deepak Ghaisas, for very enlightened speech about entrepreneurship and his journey, sharing lot of details, lot of insights. Very interesting thing that he suggested is take umbrella always with you. That's basically keep faith in your idea. I think as mentors, as directors also, we have gained lot of inputs from his speech, and we will certainly follow certain knowledge shared by him. Thank you very much, Mr. Deepak Ghaisas, for your valuable time. And I also thank for all CMI members and all of you here coming for this session and taking time, asking various questions, getting clarifications for your queries. So thank you and have a nice day. Thanks.